The neighbor thinks she owns the whole building, then breaks into my apartment. I, 31F, live in a block of 6 units, apartments for non-Australians. A month ago, the unit above mine went up for sale and sold quickly, with the new owner moving in less than a week ago. This morning, I got up to take the rubbish out and found a note stuck to my door. I thought it was a note for new people in the building, but I was wrong. Dear tenant, I recently bought your building and wish to introduce myself. My name blah blah, not going to put her actual name, and I think you will find me a fair landlord. However, I do have rules. Please be in your units by 9 p.m. If you plan to stay out past this time, you need to find a different place to stay. No pets are allowed. If you have pets, you must move them out before I inspect the area, or I will have to call the ranger to remove them. This is the only warning. I will conduct an inspection monthly, and you will be present to answer any questions or face eviction. Failure to pay rent on time will result in your eviction. If we all follow these rules, I'm sure we will get along. Sincerely, blah blah. What the F did I just read? Fun fact about my building. We all own our units. No one owns the entire building. When I got to Unit 2, I panicked because I have cats, and I couldn't imagine giving them away. Then I remembered that we bought our unit just before Christmas. We rented it from a friend prior, and when she told me she was thinking about selling it, we bought it and didn't even have to move. So, in some ways, it still feels like renting, but we own our unit. Now, I'm not great at confronting someone. I often tremble, but I was furious at that time. So, I went upstairs and knocked on her door. You know that feeling you get instinctively. It was completely correct. That door opened, and there stood a Karen, her hair blonder than my own, her nails long and brightly colored. She didn't look happy to see me there. I introduced myself and explained that I lived downstairs and wanted to talk to her about her note. She interrupted me and said that her letter contained basic rules that even a child could understand. She suggested that if I didn't like the rules, I could submit a letter to move out. I would ask if people are this up themselves, but I work in retail and could answer my question. I informed her that I was the actual owner of my unit. She had only purchased her unit, not the entire building, and therefore, she didn't have the authority to enforce anything in her note. She didn't like that at all. She started yelling at me, saying that yes, she had indeed bought the whole building and that failure to comply with her rules would mean I would be evicted. Another neighbor opened his door just as I started to think I might be wrong. He came out and asked what the issue was and if she could stop screaming as he worked nights and was trying to sleep. I told him that I was trying to explain that she hadn't bought the building, and she started yelling again. My neighbor told her to stop and then said the best thing I had heard that day. Are you stupid? Her jaw dropped as he explained to her how wrong she was and that he was, in fact, part of the strata committee, kind of like an HOA that oversees the building, and that she had no right to make rules for everyone. She looked at us unpleasantly and then shut the door forcefully. I thanked him, and he said that in all the time he had lived there, he hadn't seen someone so entitled. Update. So I guess this is an update to my last post. I had a lot of people ask me to post if she did anything else. My boyfriend is currently witnessing what is happening and texting me at work. If you missed my last post, a new neighbor moved into my building and left notes on everyone's doors claiming to have bought the building and imposed unreasonable rules. However, she only owns a unit or apartment, not the entire building. The jury is still out if she is insane or stupid. She has been quiet for the last few days, and I thought maybe that's it. I was wrong. Each unit in our building is allocated one parking space. Just one. I park in mine, and my boyfriend parks his car on the street on the other side of the building. We have a small parking lot with 6 spots for residents and 1 for visitors. The visitor spot is usually empty and our neighbors said my boyfriend could park his car there since we are the only unit with 2 vehicles. But he doesn't mind parking where he is. This morning, my boyfriend woke up to yelling. Our kitchen window overlooks the parking lot, and he snuck a peek out the window and saw the entitled neighbor standing next to our nice neighbor's car, and they were arguing loudly. She kept yelling that she had a second car and needed to park in his spot and that he had to move his car, or else she would have it towed. He kept repeating that it was his parking spot and that she could either park in the visitor spot or on the street. And if she towed his car, he would report it stolen. My boyfriend said she kept yelling that she could park wherever she wanted and that he needed to move his car. So, he decided to park his car in my empty spot in case she tried to park there while I was at work. The last message he sent me said that she had stormed upstairs in a huff and slammed her door. Edit. I got home from work, and she has parked her second car in the visitor spot, but she's parked it so badly it's blocking the driveway. Right now, I'm parked on the street, but too tired to deal with her. Edit 2. Sorry, I didn't update sooner. Like I said before, I had to park on the street because her car was blocking the driveway. The next day, her car was still there in the morning, but when I came home, it was gone. I asked my boyfriend as he was at home, and apparently, a tow truck came and took it away. I'm still not sure which neighbor called the tow truck, but I have a suspicion it's the one she was arguing with. My boyfriend said she had been quiet all day, only the odd footsteps. Update 2. Well, I'm back. As many of you predicted, her entitlement grew. In case anyone missed the update on my last post, her car was towed, but I don't know which neighbor did it. I'd count a link post, sorry. While I was at work, she got even angrier, but she didn't blame me or my boyfriend. It's been raining all week, and as I don't have a dryer, I can only wash clothes because I can hang them up inside. I am unable to wash big items like sheets or towels. I finished work and it was sunny on Saturday. I hurried home and woke up my boyfriend so I could wash all the blankets in case it rained again. I managed to wash 5 loads of sheets, blankets, and towels and hung them outside to dry. It was a lot of work, but it's done. There are technically 2 different lines for us to use, and we have never had an issue before. I finished hanging my laundry and went inside to relax. About an hour later, when I went out to retrieve the first load, I discovered that everything I had hung out was on the ground. Nothing had replaced it. All of it had been torn down, and my pegs and peg basket were gone. Most of what I'd hung out was still wet and now covered in dirt. I got my boyfriend, and he helped me bring everything inside before I went upstairs and knocked on her door. When she answered, I asked if she had taken my washing off the line. She smugly informed me that she had not permitted me to use her line. She suggested that next time I should be polite and ask, and she might let me. Look, I'm going to level with you guys. I work in retail and deal with nightmare customers. I know how to be calm around these kinds of people, and I'd try to be polite about this whole thing with the letter in the car, but my bed is my safe space, and I wanted it clean, and she messed with that just to be petty. I calmly explained that the line can be used by everyone since it's part of the building, and no one needs her permission. I calmly explained that I am a member of the Strata Committee and understand the rules and property ownership. I advised her to mature and change her behavior because it's not helping her. I told her to have a nice day before she slammed her door. Update 3. I was hoping my neighbor would settle down, but here we are. Though this story has a satisfying ending, I think. This just happened last night, and I'm still a bit tired, so I'm sorry for any spelling mistakes. Our neighbor had been quiet for a while, and my boyfriend and I thought maybe she had finally realized she couldn't control the whole building. I was able to locate one of her cars in her designated parking spot, and the other one was parked on the street behind my boyfriend's car. There were no signs of laundry getting blown off the line, and there were no new notes attached to any doors. That was until yesterday. As we are the bottom unit, apartment, we have a side door that opens out onto the shared yard. I usually only use that door to air out the place or as a quick way to hang washing. Anyway, yesterday as we were going about our day, we spotted the entitled neighbor and a few others setting up tables and chairs in the yard. It's no big deal, it's a shared space. A few minutes later, there's a knock on the side door, and it's her. My boyfriend opens the door. It's a glass sliding door, so she can see us. We couldn't ignore each other and greeted each other as usual. She informed us that she was having a party and asked us to move our wooden planters off our patio so that she could use the space for her barbecue. We declined. Firstly, the patio is our space, not shared space. Secondly, they sit right next to the glass door, so I don't want some random person looking into my living room all night while they are cooking. My boyfriend made it clear that she doesn't have the authority to decide about the building, and we're not planning on relocating anything. One of her friends asked her what she was doing because they had already set up the barbecue in the yard. She walked off without saying anything to us, and we thought that was it. It wasn't. A couple of hours passed, and we decided to close the curtains for some privacy. It seems like the person who designed this building didn't think about privacy. We can hear people talking, laughing, and cooking. The usual sounds of a backyard party. When there's another knock on the door. I was cooking dinner, so my boyfriend answered it again. This time, it was one of her friends who needed to use the bathroom. The entitled neighbor suggested that her friend could just knock on our door instead of going upstairs. My boyfriend politely informed her that she couldn't use our bathroom, and she apologized for intruding by knocking. Not even 2 minutes later, there was banging on the door, and by now my boyfriend is pissed. When he opened the door, the entitled neighbor immediately began complaining about him expecting her guest to go all the way upstairs. She insisted that he apologize to her and keep the door open for her guests. Although my boyfriend is usually calm and rational, he lost his temper at that moment. He warned her to stop bothering us and to stay out of our bathroom, emphasizing that it was not hers to use. He also mentioned that if she knocked on our door again, he would report her for harassment. At that moment, one of her friends arrived and urged her to leave us alone, apologizing for her behavior and wishing us a good night. Surprisingly, the party ended early, around 1 a.m., rather than continuing noisily into the night as we had anticipated. This morning when I got up, everything had been cleaned up from the yard, but our planters had been knocked over. Joke's on her because we hadn't planted anything in them yet, and most of the soil in there was used cat litter. I use potting mix as cat litter because it's cheaper, so now she can smell my cat's old turds. Update 4. Well, I'm back. I thought maybe my neighbor had settled down and I was done with her behavior. I do hear her fighting with the upstairs neighbor now and then, but that's about it. I'm still trying to wrap my head around what happened this afternoon. My new neighbor seems to think she's the boss of the whole apartment building, even though she's not. She's been making up all sorts of ridiculous rules that aren't even legal. We've had a few arguments, but I thought she had finally realized she couldn't control everything. Boy, was I wrong. As I am on the ground floor, I have a glass sliding door that opens out into the shared yard. Not happy about this, but we mainly treat it like a window anyway. I left the door open on that lovely, cool day, but I made sure the screen door was shut and locked to air out the house after the rain made it smell musty. Whenever that door's open, my cats will sit there and watch the birds outside. I was pretty tired, and my boyfriend suggested we both lay down and take a nap while waiting for the washing machine to finish. I thought, sure, why not, it's quiet today, and we went and laid down. We were woken up about an hour later by a rattling noise in the lounge room. I thought maybe one of the cats had tried to climb the screen door again, so I got up to scold them and found my entitled neighbor trying to open my screen door. She was tugging on it so hard that the entire door was shaking. When I asked her what she was doing, she explained that she had spotted my cats through the door while she was on her way to hang out the laundry and wanted to pet them. She hadn't realized the door was locked and thought it was just stuck. I had to explain that it wasn't stuck but locked because this was a private residence, and she couldn't just come in whenever she wanted. She kept trying to open the door while yelling that I can't keep my cats from people if they want to pet them and it's her right to show them real love. I repeated that this was my home and she couldn't walk in whenever she wanted. This seemed to piss her off, and she started to yell at me that I was a little bitch and I was abusing my animals and how dare I speak to her like that. She was tugging hard on the door, making it shake. I asked her why, and she said she wanted to pet my cats, as she had seen them through the door while going to hang clothes. I explained that the door was locked because this was a private residence, and she couldn't just walk in whenever she wanted. She finally let go of the door, glared at us, and stormed off. Needless to say, we are ordering another camera for that door now, and yes, my cats are microchipped. ETA. I thought I might add this as it's been in a few comments. She was yanking on the door so hard that the whole thing was shaking. When I asked her what she was doing, she explained that she had spotted my cats through the door as she was heading out to hang the laundry and wanted to pet them. However, I informed her that the door wasn't stuck, it was locked because this is a private residence. I mentioned that she couldn't just barge in whenever she felt like it. Update 5. So if you're new to the story, here's a brief recap, or you can check my history. My entitled neighbor brought the unit above us and thought she bought the whole building. She hadn't and tried to implement some insane rules. She also tried to park in other people's assigned parking and threatened to have our cars towed. Told me I was abusing my cats because I wouldn't let her pet them. Screamed at me because I wouldn't let her friends use my bathroom. Anyway, it's been quiet for a few weeks. Lately, I haven't heard her arguing with our neighbor like she usually does. It's been surprisingly quiet. Last week I brought a new car, yay, and it's slightly bigger than my old car, so I'm not confident enough to park it in my spot, so I've been parking on the street. The other day I got home from work and I saw a young man standing on her balcony. He was quite friendly, called hello to me, introduced himself as her nephew, and explained why he was there. She fractured her foot. It turns out that during the last family dinner, she stumbled over a dog and fractured her foot. At the moment, she's staying with her family because she's unable to manage the stairs. He mentioned that he was looking after the house because she had expressed doubts about her neighbors, but he also acknowledged that we are all friendly and considerate, suggesting that her concerns might be unfounded. It took all my strength to not sing and dance right there. Update 6. Well, she's back. Was hoping she just wouldn't come back after she broke her foot, but last week we heard a door slam from upstairs. We saw her car outside, but we're not sure if her nephew, who is house sitting, is also there. I recently tested positive for the virus and have been staying inside and resting. I've been fully vaccinated, so it's not too bad, but I could do without the headaches. My partner was out all day on Saturday getting his new car. He came back late and parked his new car on the back lawn to wash it. I was inside watching through the sliding door when I heard her balcony door open and she started yelling at him to get off her lawn. He told her to shove it, it's not her lawn and he is done. When he is done, can she please stop yelling because I have COVID and it doesn't help the migraines. Well, that was a mistake. I can't forget the moment when I heard her stomping down the stairs. She started banging on our door, shouting that I was diseased and insisting that I should isolate somewhere else before she got sick. She even threatened to call the police if I didn't leave. I firmly reminded her that she cannot kick us out of our place, which we own. I made it clear that I was staying inside, and that she could call the police if she wanted, but she would likely be fined for wasting their time. According to Miso, who was coming in after moving his car, she looked downright murderous, but once she saw him she took off up the stairs. Haven't heard anything from her since or anything from the police, so we think it was an empty threat. I was so tempted to open the door because, like they say, sharing is caring. ETA just wanted to add because I've had a few comments on it. We can't get her evicted from her own home as she owns it just like we own ours. Also, lawyers in Australia are very expensive just to talk to. When we engaged our lawyers for the sale of our property, they charged us for every little thing. They made a mistake in the paperwork by misspelling my name, and then they charged us even more to reissue the papers with the correct name. To make matters worse, my upstairs neighbor sought legal advice about her, but it seems that there isn't much they can do anyway. Update 7. I hoped I wouldn't have to post again and that she would eventually become a regular neighbor. But I was mistaken. She had been so quiet for such a long time, and her car was rarely there, that I started to think she might have moved out. But I got a nice reminder last week that she is still around. To start this story I must give a brief background. There are 8 units total in this building. I live on the ground floor, and the kind old lady who lives across the hallway and I have an unspoken agreement that if one of us is home and the other isn't, we'll sign for and accept packages to prevent them from being left in the hallway. I was expecting a package and I had a feeling it would arrive while I was at work, but I wasn't worried because of my thoughtful neighbor. I knew she would drop it off when I got home. No drama, right? Wrong. My nice old neighbor had gone away for a few days, so with nobody around my package was left next to my front door. But it wasn't there when I got home. Oh yes, dear reader, she had it. I heard stomping on the stairs and banging on my door about 10 minutes after I got home. To sum it up, my package had arrived, and she wanted to hold onto it until I got home to be nice, but it accidentally ripped, and she saw what was inside. I won't lie, it was sex toys. I like to treat myself, sue me. As soon as I opened the door, she angrily tossed my package at me while accusing me of being a pervert and demanding that I move out before my disgusting behavior spread. I calmly reminded her that opening someone else's mail is a crime. It's not illegal to buy those kinds of items, you know. But thanks for looking out for my package.